The transport ship landed quietly behind Lincoln Elementary School at exactly 8 in the morning. 3 young alien beings stepped out, each carrying recording devices and data tablets. They had traveled across the galaxy to study human education methods as part of the Galactic Exchange Program. HFY stood 7 feet tall with crystal-like skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns. His species from Xerion Prime were known throughout the galaxy for their advanced learning techniques. Next to him walked Vela, whose blue-green skin glistened like water. Her people from Thalassa had perfected underwater education systems that impressed scholars everywhere. The third visitor was Kor, a sandy-colored being from the desert world of Drakmor, where students learned through meditation and mental connection. The 3 aliens had studied human culture for months before this visit. They knew humans were considered peaceful traders and explorers. Human schools were famous for producing creative thinkers and problem solvers. Many alien worlds had requested human teachers to help improve their own education systems. Principal Janet Murphy waited for them at the back entrance. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. She had been chosen to host the alien visitors because of her 20 years of experience and her calm personality. "Welcome to Lincoln Elementary," she said, shaking hands with each visitor. The aliens found the human custom of handshaking strange but tried to copy it politely. "We are honored to observe your teaching methods," HFY replied through his translation device. His voice sounded like musical chimes when he spoke his own language, but the device made it sound flat and mechanical. Murphy led them through the hallways lined with colorful artwork and student projects. The aliens took notes on everything they saw. Classroom doors were open, and they could hear teachers explaining math problems and reading stories to young humans. "Our students range from age 5 to 11, Murphy explained as they walked. "They study the same subjects you probably have on your worlds: mathematics, science, language, history, and arts." The aliens nodded. This matched what they had expected. Education systems across the galaxy were remarkably similar. Young beings learned facts, practiced skills, and prepared for adult responsibilities. They visited several classrooms during the morning. In one room, 8-year-old students solved addition problems on small computers. In another, 10-year-olds read books about ancient civilizations. Everything seemed normal and efficient. "Your methods are quite advanced," Vela commented, watching. "Children work in small groups on a science experiment. The technology integration is impressive." Murphy smiled with pride. "We try to give our students the best preparation for their futures." Around 10:30, Murphy looked at her watch. "Now, you'll see something unique to human education. We call it recess." The aliens looked at each other with confusion. Their translation devices struggled with the word. It seemed to mean a break or pause in learning. "The children go outside for 30 minutes of free time," Murphy explained. "They play games, run around, and socialize with their friends." HFY tilted his crystalline head. "You stop education for play?" "Physical activity and social interaction are important for child development," Murphy said. "Studies show that children learn better when they have breaks for movement and fun." This concept was completely foreign to the alien visitors. On Xerion Prime, young beings studied continuously for 12 hours each day. On Thalassa, education happened during long meditation sessions underwater. On Drakmor, children learned through direct mental connection with elder teachers. None of their worlds had time set aside for unstructured activity. "How long has this practice existed?" Kor asked, making notes on his tablet. "Recess has been part of human schools for over a century," Murphy replied. "Some educators have tried to eliminate it to focus more on academics, but research consistently shows that children need this time." The aliens found this fascinating from an anthropological perspective. Perhaps this explained why humans were known for creativity and unconventional thinking. Other species focused on efficient knowledge transfer, but humans seemed to value something called play. Murphy led them to an observation deck that overlooked the playground. The area was large, with grass fields, climbing structures, and paved areas marked with various lines and circles. Several human adults stood around the edges, watching but not interfering. Those are our playground supervisors, Murphy explained. They make sure the children stay safe but let them choose their own activities. The bell rang inside the school building. Within moments, the aliens heard the sound of hundreds of young voices and running feet. Classroom doors burst open and children poured out of the building like water from a broken dam. The alien observers had never seen anything like it. Over 300 human children, ranging from tiny 5-year-olds to nearly adult 11-year-olds, scattered across the playground in what appeared to be complete chaos. "This is your education system?" Zix-4 asked with barely hidden skepticism. "Watch carefully," Murphy said with a knowing smile. "You might be surprised." The aliens positioned their recording devices and prepared to document this strange human ritual. They expected to see random, purposeless activity that wasted valuable learning time. Instead, they planned to write reports recommending that other worlds avoid this inefficient practice. But as they watched the children organize themselves into groups and begin various activities, the aliens started to notice patterns. The chaos was not as random as it first appeared. Children were making choices, forming teams, and creating their own rules for games. Still, the alien visitors remained convinced that this was a primitive practice. Their advanced civilizations had moved beyond such basic physical activities. They prepared to document what they saw as evidence of human educational inefficiency. What they were about to witness would change their understanding of human civilization forever. The 3 alien observers stood on the observation deck, their recording devices capturing every movement on the playground below. What they saw in the first few minutes confirmed their worst fears about human education methods. Children ran in different directions without any obvious purpose. Some screamed at the top of their lungs while chasing each other. Others grabbed equipment from storage bins and began hitting balls with sticks. The noise level was incredible. Nothing like the quiet, orderly learning environments on their home worlds. "This is complete disorder," Zix-4 whispered to his companions, his crystal skin flashing red with concern. "How can they call this education?" Vela adjusted her recording device to capture a group of children who were digging holes in a sandbox. "Look at that destruction of property. On Thalassa, such behavior would result in immediate correction, but as the minutes passed, the aliens began to notice something troubling. The chaos was organizing itself into patterns that looked disturbingly familiar. Near the far end of the playground, a 10-year-old boy named Jake Martinez had gathered about 20 children around him. The aliens watched as Jake divided the group into 2 teams, each wearing different colored pieces of cloth tied around their arms. The children spread out across a large grassy area, taking positions behind trees, playground equipment, and small hills. "Territory marking behavior," Core noted grimly, making marks on his data tablet. "The human children are dividing into opposing factions." Jake's team moved with purpose, crouching low and using hand signals to communicate. They advanced toward the other team's area in coordinated movements. When they reached certain positions, they would freeze and wait for signals from their leader. The aliens watched in growing alarm as the children demonstrated what appeared to be advanced tactical knowledge. They used natural cover effectively. They moved in small groups rather than large masses. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to understand the concept of flanking maneuvers. "This is not random play," Vela said quietly. "These children are practicing military tactics." On another part of the playground, 8-year-old Amy Chen had organized 30 children into precise formations. She stood in front of them shouting commands that the aliens' translation devices picked up as military-style orders. "Blue team, advance to the monkey bars," Amy called out. "Red team, secure the swing set perimeter. Yellow team, establish a defensive line at the slide." The children responded immediately, moving in straight lines and maintaining formation spacing. They looked like young soldiers following orders from a commanding officer. The aliens noted that Amy's authority was never questioned. The other children obeyed her commands without hesitation. "Formation training," Zix-4 recorded. "The humans are teaching their young ones to follow military hierarchy from an early age." The most disturbing sight was happening near the basketball courts. A 9-year-old boy named Danny Rodriguez was leading a group of children through what could only be described as combat training exercises. "Drop and roll," Danny shouted, and 20 children immediately threw themselves to the ground, rolled sideways, and jumped back to their feet. Dodge left, dodge right, now advance. The children moved like trained fighters, their bodies low and quick. They practiced jumping over obstacles, crawling under climbing equipment, and moving from cover to cover without exposing themselves to imaginary enemies. Danny had them form pairs and practice what looked like hand-to-hand combat techniques. The aliens watched in horror as children grabbed each other, spun around, and broke free using moves that seemed far too advanced for their age. They are training these children to be warriors, Kor said, his sandy skin turning darker with worry. This explains why humans are so successful in conflicts across the galaxy. The aliens had read reports about human involvement in various galactic disputes. Humans were often called upon to mediate conflicts or provide security services. Now, they understood why. Human society was producing natural fighters from childhood. But the disturbing observations did not stop there. The aliens noticed that certain children consistently took leadership roles while others followed orders. There seemed to be a natural hierarchy based on age, size, and personality. 11-year-old Lisa Park commanded respect from children 2 years younger than her. She organized complex games that involved multiple teams, changing rules, and strategic objectives. The younger children looked to her for guidance and accepted her decisions without argument. Leadership selection based on dominance patterns, Vela recorded. The stronger humans naturally rise to command positions. The aliens also observed weapon training that chilled them to their core. 7-year-old Tommy Baker was teaching other children to throw balls with deadly accuracy. They practiced hitting targets from impressive distances, adjusting their aim based on wind and distance. Projectile weapons training disguised as sport, HFY noted. These children are developing skills that could be used in combat situations. The aliens watched Tommy demonstrate different throwing techniques. Some throws were high and arcing, others were fast and direct. The children practiced until they could hit small targets consistently from various distances. Even more concerning was the way children shared knowledge. Those who mastered certain skills immediately began teaching others. The aliens realized they were witnessing a highly efficient system for spreading tactical knowledge throughout the young population. This is systematic military preparation, Kor concluded. Every human child is being trained as a potential soldier. The 3 observers exchanged worried glances. They had come to study peaceful education methods, but instead, they had discovered what appeared to be the most sophisticated child warrior training program in the galaxy. As they watched more groups of children engaging in similar activities, the aliens began to question everything they thought they knew about human society. Perhaps humans were not the peaceful traders and explorers they claimed to be. Perhaps this entire civilization was built on a foundation of carefully hidden military culture. The evidence was overwhelming. Human children were being systematically prepared for warfare, while their parents and teachers pretended it was harmless play. The aliens realized they needed to warn the Galactic Council immediately, but something deep in their minds told them to keep watching. There were details about human behavior that did not quite fit their military theory. They decided to observe for a few more days before sending their report. What they would discover next would shake their understanding of human nature to its very core. On the 3rd day of observations, the alien visitors arrived at Lincoln Elementary, with deep concern weighing on their minds. They had spent the previous evening reviewing their recordings and discussing what they had witnessed. Every piece of evidence pointed to the same disturbing conclusion. Humans were raising a generation of warriors. HFY had contacted his superiors on Zerion Prime to request guidance. The response was immediate and clear. Gather more evidence before making any official reports. The Galactic Council needed to understand the full scope of human military preparation before taking action. The aliens positioned themselves on the observation deck earlier than usual, wanting to capture every detail of what they now believed was systematic combat training disguised as childhood play. Their recording devices were set to maximum sensitivity, ready to document what they expected would be even more alarming activities. When the recess bell rang, the children poured onto the playground with the same energy as before. But today, The aliens were prepared for what they were about to see. They had identified the key leaders among the children and planned to focus their observations on these young commanders. Jake Martinez immediately began organizing what the aliens had labeled as siege warfare training. But today's activity was more complex than anything they had seen before. Jake had somehow acquired large cardboard boxes overnight, and the children were rapidly constructing what could only be described as military fortifications. Advanced engineering skills, Vela noted, watching as the children cut windows and doors in the cardboard structures. They understand defensive architecture principles. The children worked with impressive speed and coordination. Some groups focused on building walls and barriers, while others dug shallow trenches around their structures. Within minutes, the playground had been transformed into what looked like a medieval battlefield. But the most disturbing part was yet to come. Jake divided the children into attacking and defending forces. The aliens watched in horror as the attackers developed elaborate strategies to breach the cardboard fortifications. They used ropes to climb walls, coordinated simultaneous attacks on multiple positions, and employed what appeared to be psychological warfare tactics by shouting battle cries. They are practicing urban combat scenarios, Core observed, his sandy skin turning almost black with worry. This level of tactical thinking is beyond what we see in our own military academies. Meanwhile, 8-year-old Katie Johnson had taken command of a different group of children. The aliens had not paid much attention to Katie before, but today, her activities caught their full attention. She was training her followers in what could only be described as special forces operations. Katie had her team crawling on their bellies across the grass, moving from tree to tree without being seen by other children. She taught them to use small mirrors to look around corners and communicate through hand signals that the aliens' recording devices could not decipher. Reconnaissance and stealth training, HFY recorded grimly. This child is no more than 8 years old, yet she demonstrates advanced infiltration techniques. The aliens watched as Katie's team practiced what appeared to be intelligence-gathering missions. They would sneak close to other groups of playing children, observe their activities for several minutes, then return to Katie to report what they had seen. She would then adjust her team's strategy based on this information. Even more alarming was the way Katie rotated leadership roles among her team members. Each child took turns being the squad leader, making decisions and giving orders to the others. The aliens realized they were witnessing a systematic program to develop leadership skills in every child, not just natural leaders. They are creating a society where every individual can function as a military commander if necessary, Vela whispered in horror. The weapons training had also advanced to a more sophisticated level. Tommy Baker was no longer simply teaching children to throw balls accurately. Today he had organized what appeared to be a comprehensive marksmanship program using various types of projectiles. Some children practiced with foam balls, focusing on accuracy over distance. Others worked with heavier rubber balls, developing the strength needed for long-range attacks. Tommy had even set up moving targets, teaching the children to hit objects that were not standing still. They are adapting their weapons training to different combat scenarios, Core noted. Close-range accuracy, long-range power, and moving target engagement. This is a complete military curriculum. But perhaps the most chilling observation was the way the children handled competition and conflict. When disputes arose during games, the aliens expected to see emotional outbursts or appeals to adult authority. Instead, they witnessed something far more disturbing. 9-year-old Ryan Clark had gotten into an argument with another child over game rules. Instead of crying or fighting, Ryan immediately called for what he termed a war council. Representatives from both sides sat in a circle and negotiated a solution that satisfied everyone involved. Diplomatic training integrated with military preparation, HFY observed. They are learning to resolve conflicts through negotiation while maintaining the option of force if needed. The aliens noted that this pattern repeated throughout the playground. Children who disagreed would form temporary alliances, negotiate compromises, and then return to their activities. No adult intervention was required. The children had developed their own system of conflict resolution that combined elements of diplomacy and military strategy. As the days progressed, the aliens documented increasingly sophisticated activities. Children began combining different types of training into complex scenarios that looked like full-scale military exercises. They practiced evacuation procedures, established communication networks, and even developed supply chains for sharing equipment and resources. This is not random play, Vela concluded during their evening analysis session. Every activity serves a specific purpose in preparing these children for warfare. The human education system is far more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy realizes. The
aliens prepared to send an urgent warning to the Galactic Council. They had documented clear evidence that human society was built on military foundations that began in early childhood.
The peaceful facade that humans presented to the galaxy was obviously a carefully constructed deception. But something nagged at the back of their minds. Despite all the military-style activities they had observed, they had never seen actual aggression between the children. No one had been hurt. No one had cried. The children seemed to genuinely enjoy these activities that the aliens interpreted as combat training. They decided to observe for one more day before sending their final report. What they would witness tomorrow would completely change their understanding of human nature and force them to reconsider everything they thought they knew about this remarkable species. The fourth day started like all the others. The alien observers took their positions on the observation deck, recording devices ready to capture what they expected would be more evidence of human military training. They had already prepared most of their report to the Galactic Council, warning about the dangerous warrior culture hidden beneath Earth's peaceful appearance. 6-4 had spent the morning reviewing their recordings from the previous 3 days. The evidence seemed overwhelming. Human children were being systematically trained in tactics, weapons use, leadership, and conflict resolution. No other species in the galaxy began military preparation at such a young age. The recess bell rang at exactly 10:30, just as it had every day before. 300 children rushed onto the playground with their usual energy and excitement. The aliens focused their recording devices on the groups they had been tracking, expecting to see more advanced combat training. Jake Martinez gathered his usual team of 20 children near the cardboard fortifications they had built the day before. Amy Chen began organizing her formation drills with military precision. Katie Johnson prepared her stealth training exercises. Everything was proceeding exactly as the aliens had come to expect, but at 10:45 something completely unexpected happened. Principal Murphy's voice crackled over the school's intercom system, reaching every corner of the playground through outdoor speakers. Her tone was calm but serious, completely different from her usual friendly announcements. Attention all students and staff. We are now beginning a lockdown drill. This is only a drill. Please follow all lockdown procedures immediately. The aliens had no idea what a lockdown drill meant, but they were about to witness something that would shatter every assumption they had made about human nature. The change was instant and absolute. Every single child on the playground, regardless of what they had been doing just seconds before, stopped their activities immediately. There was no confusion, no questions, no delay. Over 300 young humans moved with a speed and coordination that took the aliens' breath away. Jake Martinez, who had been leading what the aliens thought was siege warfare training, immediately dropped his cardboard shield and began helping younger children. He moved with calm efficiency, gathering 5-year-olds who looked scared and guiding them toward the school building. "Stay close to me," Jake told them in a gentle voice. "Remember what we practiced. We stick together and help each other." The aliens watched in amazement as this boy, who they had labeled as a military commander in training, showed nothing but protective care for the smaller children. His tactical skills were not being used to attack or dominate, but to organize and protect the most vulnerable members of his community. Amy Chen, whose formation drills had convinced the aliens she was training child soldiers, took charge of a group of panicked second graders. She moved them into a tight formation, but not for attack. Instead, she created a protective circle with the older children on the outside and the younger ones safely in the center. "Everyone hold hands," Amy instructed calmly. We move together as one unit. If someone falls, we stop and help them up. No one gets left behind. The aliens realized with growing shock that Amy's military-style organization was actually a sophisticated system for ensuring group safety. Her leadership training was not about commanding troops in battle, but about protecting and guiding others during emergencies. Katie Johnson's stealth training took on an entirely different meaning as the aliens watched her coordinate with other children using the hand signals they had thought were combat communications. She was not preparing for infiltration missions against enemies. She was organizing rapid, silent movement to help evacuate the playground without causing panic. Katie positioned herself and her trained team at key locations around the playground. They used their stealth skills to move quickly and quietly, checking every hiding spot to make sure no child was left behind. Their reconnaissance training was being used to save lives, not to gather intelligence for warfare. Tommy Baker's weapons training revealed its true purpose as he helped organize the movement of sports equipment out of pathways. His accuracy with thrown objects was not about combat, but about being able to quickly and safely move obstacles that might slow down an evacuation. The aliens watched in stunned silence as every skill they had interpreted as military training was immediately applied to protection and rescue operations. The children's tactical knowledge was being used to ensure everyone's safety, not to prepare for battle. But the most remarkable transformation was in the overall behavior of the children. The playground leaders they had identified did not use their authority to save themselves first. Instead, every single leader immediately focused on helping others, especially the youngest and most vulnerable children. 11-year-old Lisa Park, who the aliens had thought was being trained as a military commander, took responsibility for a group of kindergarten students who were crying with fear. She knelt down to their level, spoke to them in a soothing voice, and organized them into a safe formation for evacuation. "This is just practice," Lisa told them gently. "We practice so we know how to keep everyone safe. You are all doing great. Now let's walk together to our safe spot." The aliens realized that the hierarchy they had observed was not based on dominance or military rank. It was based on responsibility and care. The older children naturally took charge not to control others, but to protect them. Within 5 minutes, the entire playground was empty. Over 300 children had been safely moved to designated areas inside the school building. The evacuation had been smooth, efficient, and calm. No child had been forgotten or left behind. The alien observers sat in stunned silence, their recording devices still running but their minds reeling from what they had just witnessed. Everything they thought they understood about human nature had just been proven completely wrong. These children had not been trained as warriors. They had been prepared as protectors, guardians, and leaders who would put the safety of their community above their own interests. The skills they had developed through play were not for attacking enemies, but for defending and helping their friends and neighbors. As the all-clear signal sounded and children began returning to the playground, the aliens realized they needed to completely rewrite their report to the Galactic Council. They had discovered something far more remarkable than a warrior culture hidden beneath peaceful appearances. They had found a species that had learned to disguise the most sophisticated protection and leadership training in the galaxy as simple childhood fun. The 3 alien observers spent their final evening at Lincoln Elementary, completely rewriting their report to the Galactic Council. What had started as a warning about human military culture had become something entirely different. They were now documenting the most advanced educational system they had ever encountered. Zix-4 deleted every reference to warfare and combat training from their files. In place of those warnings, he wrote detailed observations about leadership, development, community protection, and social cooperation. The crystal patterns on his skin shifted from red alarm colors to blue tones of wonder and respect. "We have witnessed something remarkable," he said to his companions as they reviewed their final recordings. "These humans have solved a problem that has challenged educators across the galaxy for thousands of years." Vela nodded, her blue-green skin glowing softly in the dim light of their temporary quarters. "They have found a way to prepare children for adult responsibilities without removing the joy from childhood. The children believe they are playing games, but they are actually developing essential life skills. Kor's sandy skin had returned to its normal color for the first time since their observations began. Most impressive is that they learned to protect others before protecting themselves. This goes against basic survival instincts, yet these children do it naturally. The aliens had spent hours analyzing the lockdown drill, breaking down every movement and decision made by the children. What they discovered was a masterpiece of social engineering that put their own educational systems to shame. Human children learned leadership through games that required quick thinking and group coordination. They developed physical fitness through activities that felt like fun rather than exercise. Most importantly, they practiced emergency responses without fear or stress because the training was disguised as play. Consider Jake Martinez, HFY noted, pulling up recordings of the boys' activities. His siege warfare games taught him to think strategically under pressure, but when real pressure came during the drill, he used those skills to protect younger children, not to attack enemies. The aliens reviewed Amy Chen's formation drills with new understanding. Her military-style commands had actually been teaching children to move safely in groups, maintain awareness of their surroundings, and follow instructions that could save their lives in emergencies. She was not training soldiers, Vela observed. She was preparing guardians who would instinctively protect their community. Katie Johnson's stealth training took on completely different meaning in light of the lockdown drill. Her reconnaissance skills were not for gathering intelligence on enemies, but for ensuring no one was left behind during evacuations. Her hand signals were not military communications but silent coordination methods to avoid causing panic. Even Tommy Baker's weapons training revealed its true purpose. His accuracy with projectiles translated into precise movement of obstacles and equipment during emergencies. He was not learning to attack, but to quickly clear paths for safe evacuation. The aliens realized that every activity they had observed served multiple purposes. Children developed physical strength, mental agility, social skills, and emergency preparedness, all while having fun. It was the most efficient educational system imaginable. But the true genius of human education went even deeper. The children were not just learning individual skills. They were absorbing cultural values that would shape their entire society. The games taught them that strength should be used to protect the weak, that leadership meant taking responsibility for others, and that personal safety came second to community welfare. This explains why humans are so successful as peacekeepers and mediators across the galaxy, Kor noted in their final report. They are not trained as warriors, but as protectors, who will sacrifice themselves for others. Other species trust them because they genuinely put community safety above personal gain. The aliens spent their last morning observing recess with completely different eyes. Jake's team-building exercises were preparing future leaders who would unite rather than divide. Amy's organizational skills were creating administrators who would serve their communities effectively. Katie's problem-solving games were developing innovators who would find peaceful solutions to complex challenges. They watched Tommy teaching younger children to throw balls accurately, but now they understood he was really teaching patience, practice, and helping others succeed. Every interaction they observed showed children learning to cooperate, share, and support each other. We must recommend that other worlds study this system, Vela concluded. But they cannot simply copy the activities. The true power comes from the underlying philosophy that strength exists to protect, not to dominate. When their transport ship arrived to take them back to their respective worlds, the three aliens said goodbye to Principal Murphy with genuine gratitude. She had allowed them to witness something extraordinary, though she probably did not understand how profound their discovery had been. "Thank you for showing us your educational methods," HFY said, his crystal skin displaying grateful purple patterns. "We have learned more than we expected." Murphy smiled warmly. "I hope you found some ideas you can use on your own worlds. Children are the same everywhere. They just need the right environment to grow." As their ship lifted off from Earth, the aliens began preparing presentations for their respective governments. HFY would recommend that Zerion Prime study human playground activities to improve their rigid educational system. Vela planned to introduce play-based learning to the underwater schools of Thalassa. Core wanted to modify the mental connection methods used on Drakmor to include physical and social skill development. Within months of their return, reports about human educational methods spread throughout the galaxy. Delegations from dozens of worlds requested permission to observe human schools. The Galactic Education Council officially recognized Earth as a center of excellence for childhood development. Years later, when Zix-4 became Minister of Education on Zerion Prime, he implemented modified versions of human recess activities. Young crystal beings learned to work together, solve problems creatively, and protect their communities through games that felt like pure fun. Vela introduced surface-based play activities to complement Thalassa's underwater meditation systems. Children learned to transition between aquatic and land-based skills, while developing the social bonds that had made human communities so strong. Core revolutionized Drakmor's education by combining mental connection, learning with physical activities that built both individual skills and group cooperation. The desert world's isolation decreased as children learned to work with others from an early age. The three former observers often met at galactic education conferences, sharing stories about how human-inspired methods had transformed their worlds. They never forgot the lesson they learned at Lincoln Elementary, that the strongest societies are built not by training warriors, but by raising protectors who find joy in keeping others safe.